My name is Lauren Carter, and I was 35 years old when everything I believed about love, marriage, and loyalty collapsed in a single afternoon. Only a week after my father's funeral, I sat across from the probate attorney, exhausted from grief. I expected endless paperwork, legal explanations, and difficult conversations about my father's estate. Instead, after reviewing several documents, the attorney paused, removed his glasses, and looked at me with visible concern. "Mrs. Carter," he said carefully, "before we continue, I need to ask something. Are you aware that you have been legally divorced for nearly 2 months?" For several seconds, I simply stared at him. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He repeated himself. I laughed nervously, convinced he had confused my file with someone else's. That very morning, my husband, Ethan Carter, had poured me coffee, reminded me to carry an umbrella because rain was expected, kissed my forehead, and told me he'd make dinner when I returned home. How could I possibly be divorced? "There has to be some mistake," I insisted. Without saying another word, the attorney turned his monitor toward me. There it was. My name, Ethan's name, a finalized divorce decree. Every signature looked exactly like mine. My hands began trembling as I stared at the documents. I recognized every stroke of the pen. They weren't forged. Somehow, I had actually signed them. The room suddenly felt too small. As the attorney quietly explained the legal filing dates, memories started flashing through my mind. 2 months earlier, while my father was dying in the hospital, Ethan had arrived carrying a thick stack of business contracts. "Our investors need these signed today," he had said. "It's urgent." I hadn't questioned him. I had barely slept for days, spending every waking hour beside my father's hospital bed. I signed every page without reading them, trusting the man I'd spent 12 years loving. Hid among those business papers had been divorce documents. My own husband had ended our marriage without telling me. The attorney continued explaining that my father had placed strict protections around my inheritance. Since the divorce had already been finalized before the estate transferred, Ethan had absolutely no legal claim to the $35 million. Normally, that news would have brought relief. Instead, I felt sick. Money no longer mattered. Someone I trusted more than anyone had quietly erased our marriage while pretending every day that nothing had changed. As I left the law office, I didn't drive home. For the first time in years, my instincts told me something far darker was waiting beneath the surface. And if Ethan had hidden a secret divorce, what else had he been hiding from me? Instead of driving home, I parked several blocks away from the office and sat in my car for nearly an hour. My hands still shook as I replayed every conversation Ethan and I had shared over the past few months. Had every smile been fake? Every hug a performance? The questions refused to stop. By the time I started the engine again, I had made one decision. I wouldn't confront him. Not yet. If Ethan had managed to divorce me without my knowledge, he was capable of far more than simple betrayal. I needed facts before emotions. The next morning, I hired one of Seattle's most respected private investigators, Daniel Reeves. After listening carefully to my story, he didn't make promises. He simply nodded. "If there's something he's hiding," Daniel said, "we'll find it." The investigation moved faster than I expected. Only 4 days later, Daniel called me into his office. The expression on his face warned me before he spoke. "You should prepare yourself. He placed several photographs across the desk. My heart nearly stopped. The first picture showed Ethan walking hand in hand with a young woman I recognized instantly. Sophia Brooks. Years earlier, Sophia had entered my life, frightened, broke, and drowning in debt. I had paid her college tuition, helped her move to Seattle, introduced her to professional contacts, and treated her like the younger sister I'd never had. She used to tell everyone I had saved her life. Now she was smiling beside my husband. The next photograph hurt even more. Ethan unlocked the door to a luxurious waterfront condominium while Sophia carried grocery bags beside him. The final picture shattered whatever hope remained. A little boy, no older than 4, came running toward Ethan with open arms. "Daddy!" Daniel quietly lowered another file onto the table. "The neighbors all believe Ethan and Sophia are married. They've been living together for almost 3 years. 3 years. While I endured endless fertility treatments, painful procedures, and heartbreaking disappointments. Ethan had already built another family. Every doctor's appointment he claimed he couldn't attend suddenly made sense. Every late-night meeting, every unexpected business trip, every excuse, it had all been a lie. Daniel wasn't finished. There is something else. He opened a thick financial report prepared by a forensic accountant. Over the past 3 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars had quietly disappeared from Novosphere Technologies, the software company Ethan and I had built together from a tiny apartment. The money had been routed through shell companies before ending up in businesses owned by Sophia's relatives. Those stolen funds had paid for luxury vacations, expensive cars, designer clothing, and the waterfront condo. I stared silently at the evidence. Every sleepless night I had spent growing our company. Every sacrifice, every dream, had financed the perfect life Ethan created with another woman. For the first time since learning about the secret divorce, I stopped crying. Grief slowly gave way to something far more dangerous: determination. Over the next 2 weeks, I said nothing to Ethan. Every morning, I smiled across the breakfast table as though nothing had changed. Every evening, I listened to his stories about late meetings and demanding investors while secretly knowing exactly where he had been. The hardest part wasn't pretending. It was realizing how effortlessly he lied. Meanwhile, my team quietly assembled the truth. Daniel expanded his investigation, while a group of forensic accountants traced every suspicious transaction linked to Novosphere Technologies. At the same time, my attorneys reviewed years of corporate records, searching for evidence that would stand in court. What they uncovered was even worse than I imagined. Ethan had created multiple fake consulting companies using trusted associates as figureheads. Those companies billed Novosphere for services that were never performed. Over 3 years, he siphoned nearly $850,000 from the business without raising suspicion. The money funded the life he shared with Sophia, luxury vacations, private school tuition, designer furniture, even the engagement ring he had recently purchased for her. Every dollar represented hours I had worked, risks I had taken, and employees who believed we were building an honest company. One evening, I finally decided it was time. When Ethan walked through our front door, I was waiting in the living room with a folder resting on the coffee table. He smiled casually. "Long day?" "It was," I answered. How was Sophia? His smile disappeared instantly. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. I don't know what you're talking about, he finally said. I slid a photograph across the table, then another, then another. Each picture showed him with Sophia and the little boy, his shoulders relaxed. To my surprise, he stopped pretending. So, he said quietly, you found out. How long? About 3 years. The answer hurt more than I expected. Were any of those years real? He looked away. I cared about you once. Once. As though 12 years of marriage could be erased with a single word. Then his expression hardened. You couldn't give me the family I wanted, Lauren. Sophia could. His words felt like knives, but I refused to let him see the damage. You divorced me without my knowledge. It was easier that way. Easier? You would have fought me. He wasn't wrong. Then he leaned forward with a cold confidence I had never seen before. If you expose me, Novosphere collapses. Investors panic. Hundreds of employees lose their jobs. You'll destroy everything we built. He believed he still held the power. What he didn't know was that every company password had already been changed under my authority as CEO. Every financial record had been copied. Every backup server had been secured. The board of directors had been privately briefed, and federal investigators had already begun reviewing the evidence. Ethan thought he was threatening me. In reality, the trap had already closed. The only thing left was choosing the perfect moment to reveal it. The perfect opportunity arrived during Novosphere Technologies' annual investor summit. It was the Compassheim's biggest event of the year. Major investors, board members, reporters, and business partners filled the conference hall, expecting Ethan and me to unveil our newest software platform. To everyone watching, we still appeared to be the successful leadership team that had built the company together. Only I knew the truth. Ethan walked confidently onto the stage, flashing his usual polished smile. He had no idea that every move he planned to make had already been anticipated. According to our cybersecurity team, he intended to activate a hidden kill switch buried inside the demonstration software. If the presentation failed in front of investors, he planned to blame me, crash the company's stock value, and force the board to remove me as CEO. Instead, the moment he entered his password, an error message appeared. Access denied. His confident expression vanished. He tried again, another rejection. Before he could react, the presentation screens changed. Instead of the product demonstration, detailed financial records appeared for everyone to see. One by one, shell companies, fraudulent invoices, and unauthorized bank transfers filled the giant display behind him. The room fell silent. "What is this?" Ethan demanded. I stepped onto the stage and faced the audience. "This," I said calmly, "is the truth." I explained how company funds had been stolen for years, how fake businesses had been used to hide the money, and how the fraud reached nearly $850,000. Every statement was supported by documents already shared with the board and federal investigators. Then 2 police detectives entered the conference hall. Walking directly toward Ethan, one detective said, "Mr. Carter, you're under arrest for financial fraud, corporate theft, and evidence of conspiracy. Please place your hands behind your back." The audience watched in stunned silence as handcuffs closed around his wrists. As officers escorted him away, Ethan looked back at me with disbelief. "You planned all this? No, I replied. You did the moment you believed I would never discover the truth. Days later, another shocking revelation surfaced. DNA testing requested during the investigation confirmed that the little boy Ethan had spent years raising wasn't biologically his. Sophia had hidden another relationship from him long before they met. The family Ethan sacrificed everything to protect had never truly been his. Several months later, Novosphere emerged stronger than ever under new leadership. Employees kept their jobs, investors remained confident, and the company's reputation recovered because we had acted before Ethan could destroy it. As for my father's $35 million inheritance, I invested much of it into expanding the business and establishing a foundation that helped students from struggling families pursue higher education. With strict accountability measures that I had once been too trusting to require. Looking back, I no longer see the day I learned about my secret divorce as the worst day of my life. It was the day I finally opened my eyes. I lost a husband, but I reclaimed my future. I lost a marriage, but I kept my integrity. And I learned that kindness is powerful only when it is balanced with wisdom, because trust should always be earned and never given so completely that it blinds you to the truth.